Hello there. What is going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about Phase 2 clone troopers in Star Wars Legion. They are getting closer and closer, and I figured I would do a little pre-build with them, kind of talking about like maybe how many I might suggest you might need to buy. I did a similar video with the super battle droids, and I've had a couple of people suggest, hey, are you going to do the same thing with Phase 2 clone troopers? So rest assured, I am. And we're going to be using Tabletop Admiral today. Tabletop Admiral, great website. Definitely check them out. We're going to make a Republic build, and we're going to come in here and we're going to talk about the Phase 2 clone troopers. Now, you'll notice if you come in here that you're not going to see Phase 2 clone troopers available in the list builder because they're not currently out yet. So if you are using Tabletop Admiral, make sure you go up to where it says Show Unreleased Units and Upgrades. And this will kind of show you everything else that we have information on that Tabletop Admiral is able to kind of put into here. So we're going to talk about Phase 2 clone troopers right now. Phase 2s are pretty awesome. They, first off, they're kind of expensive because they're 60 points. They do have a lot of upgrade options. They only have 1 health, so they're a little bit weaker than, for example, if you were to compare them directly to the Phase 2, rather the B2 Super Battle Droids. But they do have the 2 courage, which is really good for core. They do have a red defense die. They don't have any surge, kind of like you would expect, but they do have black die, range 1 to 3. In many respects, they're almost exactly the same as the Phase 1 clone troopers. The notable differences here, if you look at the Phase 1 clone troopers, they're going to be a little bit cheaper. They only have courage value of 1 for the Phase 1s. They still get 4 minis, but the upgrades are going to be different. Here you got a heavy personnel, gear, and grenade. You're now going to also have the training upgrade. And that is going to be another one of those ways that you can further customize these guys, as well as their regular abilities. If you'll notice, you've got fire support. You also have that in the Phase 2 clone troopers, but you're also going to get reliable 1, which is going to give you a surge token. And you're going to always have that surge token. You're going to get 1 every turn, basically. So that's that's a nice thing, but I don't feel like they're as different from the Phase 1 clone troopers as maybe they could be. So I don't really think you're going to need to get a whole lot of Phase 2 clone troopers. I'm thinking a lot of people will probably get 3 or less. I don't expect a whole lot of people to run, 6 units of Phase 2 clone troopers. I mean, granted, there's, reasons to maybe do that. However, there's certain upgrades that I just feel kind of invalidate part of the benefit of the Phase 2 clone troopers. And I think from a lot of ways, it's aggressive tactics, which is going to give, a lot of your guys a surge token anyway. Now, granted, you can use multiple surge tokens, and that's kind of one of the things we're going to look at with this type of build. So we're going to do a clone-centric build here. I'll start off with Phase 2 clone troopers because I had predicted I think a lot of people will probably get less than 3. And I think that's probably safe. I think 2 is kind of my magic number for a lot of expansions. Considering you're going to have 2 different heavy weapons options that come with it. There's going to be like 2 kind of ways to run a lot of different units. So I think 2 is just a good number. So in this build, I'm going to focus on 2 Phase 2 clone troopers. Now, for both of them, since we only have the Z6 currently in the list builder, I'm going to have them both set up with the Z6. The Z6 is probably my favorite gun in the entire game, and a lot of units are able to get it. The Phase 2 clone troopers are able to put this to slightly better use, primarily because of the fact that they're going to start off with a surge. Now, it's not cheap. It's 27 points for the Z6 Phase 2 gun. But again, you're getting 6 white dice. It's just a really, really nice option, especially considering that fire support is such a prominent thing with the clones. If you have them add their die to, someone else, it's going to be great. You're just going to have so many different options for this particular setup that I love it. So we'll do that. We'll also give them the extra Phase 2 clone trooper. Very, very expensive to have here. Again, I don't think you're always going to necessarily want to run an extra Phase 2 clone trooper. I think maybe if you're looking at using them as fire support and getting that Z6 thrown on there, you might not have to go quite that route. But then again, I would imagine if you are going fire support, you probably could just as easily do that on a Phase 1 with the Phase 1 Z6 as opposed to the Phase 2 Z6. So I think Phase 2 Z6s are probably going to want to be the shooter rather than the support. It's actually wouldn't have surprised me if they came without fire support. But then again, maybe they would have to have been a little cheaper to do that. So we did give them an extra Phase 2 clone trooper. They're going to be kind of a bread and butter, like our heavy hitters, like our Death Trooper type characters over here. Now, since they are going to be the shooters, I want them to be able to do an awful lot and be able to put that surge to good use, and also be able to put that that Z6 to good use. And we're going to give them offensive push. That's going to give them a free aim token, so this way they can always move and shoot, and that's going to stack with a lot of other things. This is going to make them a much better unit, and that's where the training upgrade really comes into play that your normal Phase 1 clone troopers don't get. Of course, you have other options too. I think Overwatch is a solid option. It's a really, really solid option on them, as a matter of fact. Overwatch is a great option to give your Phase 2 clone troopers the ability to maximize those standby tokens from nearby clones. You can have, like, I think one of the things you want to have with clones is you want to have feeders. And so run some cheaper Phase 1 clone troopers to just like take aim and standby or dodge and standby or things like that. This way you can feed those tokens over to your Phase 2 clones. Also, if you do have things like extra surge tokens because of an aggressive tactics or something like that, then you can also, anything that's not needed, that can all be filtered into that one big maybe standby attack or something like that. So I really like Overwatch on them. Endurance, I think, is less important. And I'm going over these just because this is the big difference with this particular unit. Tenacity, I don't really think they're going to be doing melee attacks very much. Hunter is not terrible. It's not terrible, but I feel like I would much rather have offensive push than Hunter. I almost always would. But then again, there you go. Duck and cover actually could be a decent option for these guys as well. But I think your big two options here, because of their courage value of 2, they can more easily work with that. But they have the red defense die already, so they're already pretty survivable. Red defense die plus they're gonna have a surge, so it's not like as crucial. But I think your big two here are offensive push and Overwatch. But in this case, I'm gonna have them run offensive push. Now, I'm also going to give them, I'm not going to give them any grenades, but I'm going to give them targeting scopes, because that's going to factor in very well to with offensive push, giving them the free aim. And also being able to borrow aims, and the fact that they're clone troopers. I feel like targeting scopes is a really, really good fit for clones, because they're so likely to be able to have access to aims, as well as have more dice to reroll with the Z6s, because you're going to already have 5 black die, and then now 6. So you're rolling 11 dice, maybe even more than that if you do fire support, if you have enough aim tokens ready to go. And considering that this unit may end up spending multiple aim tokens because of other clone units feeding them tokens, I figure targeting scopes really gives you a big bang for your buck here. And it recently got a points reduction. I think it's possible that targeting scopes might end up getting a points increase once I think people start running a lot more clone units and start realizing, hey, I can get an extra 3 dice re-rolled out of this particular upgrade every attack, and it could be potentially. So it's just, beyond what you normally would have had. It might end up seeing a slight increase in points, but I'm very comfortable with targeting scopes being a 4-point upgrade right now. So I'm whoop, I made it go away. There we go. And I'm going to leave the grenade slot empty right now, because I don't think they're going to want to get into range 1 again. I don't think they want to go melee. But if I were going to do grenades, I think fragmentation grenades is definitely the best option for units that don't have surge. And if you do get those surge tokens, it allows you to save those for defense. Definitely like that. But we're not going to do that right now. We should have hopefully enough other surge to be able to pull from our buddies, from our nearby buddy clone troopers. Now, in the spirit of 2, I'm going to duplicate this whole unit one time. I'm going to have 2 very, very strong Z6 units, and that's going to let the rest of my clone trooper core fill in the gaps. So I'm going to go with some Phase 1 clone troopers. And the Phase 1s are going to, we're going to go ahead and, I'm going to do 3 empty Phase 1 clone troopers. 3 of them that are completely empty, and I'm going to take a 4th one, and I'm going to give them a little bit more range. They're going to have a DC 15. This way I've got some different ranges covered. They can stay farther in the back. They can, maybe he still feeds to these guys, but from a little bit more safety. Or, if I do need that range, I've got some great range there. It just gives you a little bit of diversity here. So now this is actually 6 core. So I'm going to have a lot of activations, which is harder to do, especially for the Republic. It's hard to run 6 troopers a lot if you want to have some diversity. For the longest time it has been, because you had Obi-Wan Kenobi, your commander was very, very expensive. And I think now that we've got some new options, on the horizon, we can get higher activations for less points. For one, we can have Clone Commander or Clone Captain Rex be our commander for this particular for this unit, so we don't have to run Obi-Wan Kenobi. We can have a very clone-centric build, and this is going to work very well because we're trying to take advantage, and like the core of this build is to try to take advantage of those new clone mechanics for the Phase 2s. So Rex is going to start off with aggressive tactics. It's just a great option, especially in the new factions, but it's great almost everywhere. There are some builds for the Rebels and the Empire that don't get as much value out of this, particularly if you're running a lot of units that already have their surges. But here it's absolutely great. Absolutely great. For training, I'm going to give Rex offensive push as well. Especially with the whole scout option, you're going to be giving, you're going to be just doing all kinds of really good stuff. So I like offensive push, just a really good thing. Now again, that's inexhaustible, so it's not going to be every single turn, but still pretty nice. And then I'm going to give Rex Recon Intel, so this way when Rex is doing his scouting party, he can go a little bit, a little bit farther, I believe, because you're going to gain Scout. Scout 1? No, he's got Scout 1, right? So this is going to give him Scout 2. It's going to give him a little bit of flexibility. It's going to increase his flexibility just a little bit. All right, so that's Rex's build. He's kind of out there to try to help my clone troopers get a little bit more, mobility and a little bit better positioning. So I was talking about activations. We're already at 7 activations right here, and we still have a lot of points to go. Now, I think the obvious thing, I can't justify filling in the list with a tank at this point, although it's a possibility, but we just haven't seen enough of the tank, and I'm kind of waiting for a preview article on the tanks before we really start talking about them in depth. So I think Bark Speeders are a really good option to trigger that, but I want to also use R2-D2. I want to use R2-D2 because he's a real cheap activation. He's the cheapest activation we've seen. We can give R2-D2 some cool, and he can help win games with his secret mission, which is really, really cool. If you can get him, into the enemy deployment zone at the end of the game, by the end of the game, it's incredible, and it can really, really change games. And I love that about him. And he's a cheap activation too. So even if you don't, there's no disadvantage to using him. He's going to work a lot better with C-3PO. We're going to have his counterpart there, so we're going to run R2 and 3PO. Now, I just think that's going to be great. So we're going to run R2 and 3PO. We're going to have them over there. Now we're up to 8 activations, and we have enough points to fit 2 more Barks in here. The Bark Speeder is going to be great. I think a lot of people are running Barks with the sidecars, but I want to point out that you don't have to run Barks with the sidecar. If you don't, they still get Arsenal 2. They still get to split fire, which is really cool because you've got, your 1 to 3 in the front, and then you've got your 1 to 3 anywhere for your DC-15A. The cool thing about the DC-15A, it's only a single black die, but it does let you trigger fire support, right? You can, and you've got surge to hit, and that's what's so great about the Bark Speeders. You want the Bark Speeders to be the ones out there calling the shots, saying, all right, we're firing on this guy. And then, of course, then one of your clone units says, okay, good, well, I have a face-up order token. Boom, I'm going to throw all of these dice. Oh, no problem, the Bark Speeder's got offensive surge to hit. And you get that, and you get the free move, so you can do your compulsory move, you can aim, and then you can shoot. And if you're speed 3, you get a lot more movement, you got a lot more flexibility on where you're going to go. If you're at a sidecar, you are going to get a little bit more firepower, but it's going to slow you down to speed 2. Now, some people like having a speed 2 compulsory. It might give them a little bit easier maneuverability. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and let's add a Bark Speeder. And out of the different crew options, we've got this RPS-6 gunner that's range 2 to 4. Not the biggest fan of this one. For one, it's 24 points, and it can't shoot at range 1. So it's got impact 2. It's real nice against vehicles. I don't expect to face a whole lot of vehicles in the immediate future. Maybe once the tanks come out, we'll start looking at more impact stuff. We've got the Ion Gunner. Again, it's going to work against vehicles. It's good against things like Droidekas 2, which isn't terrible. But I'm going to stick with the Twin Laser Gunner. It's still 4 dice. Works at range 1 to 3. Same range as your Bark is already at. Considering you've got a compulsory move, even if it's a compulsory move of only 2, you got a big base. That still gives you a lot of mobility. You're probably going to be able to find a shot there, no problem. And 4 dice plus, you're going to roll 7 dice this way, which is not half bad. Maybe even more if you can line up a fire support shot. So I like that. We're going to go with the laser gun, and they're the cheapest. And we'll duplicate that. We'll have 2 barks in there, and that brings us exactly to 800 points. And that's 10 activations, everybody. That's not too shabby. 10 activations with clones is used to be pretty hard to do. And things like Rex and R2-D2 have helped us kind of bring those a more expensive core into this game. And this is, trying to maximize having the Phase 2 clones be our primaries here. Now, I feel once we get some more medic packs, or basically we get a medic option for the droids, I could see us maybe dropping a DC 15 and replacing some clones, some of the basic clone units as medics to kind of support in multiple ways, because now they'll be able to, depending of course on how much the medic unit costs, we can now heal our heavy shooters, and also pass them tokens as well, assuming that they work exactly the same as the other factions medics work. That'll be another option that you can do. Now, we also have command cards. We have some different things to actually think about, because not only do we have Rex and the basics, but we also have R2-D2 as well. So we are going to use all 3 of Rex's, and I want to talk a little bit about these. First off, fire support is going to be awesome for Rex. Call Me Captain is amazing. The big counter to this, though, is if somebody can remove Rex's token, like Dooku's 2-pip can. So if you're going up against Dooku, you want to make, if you're going to use this one, you want to make sure that he's beyond range 2 of Dooku for you to play this card. Otherwise, you run the risk of Dooku running the 2-pip, and there's mind games you can play too when you're kind of picking your cards and like, hold on, let me measure range. Oh, okay, and just but this is still just such a great card, and the threat of it is absolutely fantastic. We've got Take That Clankers. This one's going to be really, really nice, and the reason, this one is maybe one of Rex's best cards because it's so versatile. It's only 2 troopers, so you can't, you're not going to give it to everybody. But if you can get it to those 2 Phase 2 clone troopers, they can then even move, right? They can move and then get a free aim with offensive push, and now fire their Z6 at range 4. But considering you also moved, you're looking at like a range 5 shot with Z6. So you can shoot pretty much anybody with a Z6 and an aim and all of that stuff like right away. It's absolutely incredible. And I think this one's going to be nuts. And this one is only going to get better, too, once they start doing things like if you get HQ uplink, or you get other ways to get, to push this 2 beyond. Like if you can get multiple guys with face-up order tokens beyond just the 2 troopers, that's going to be pretty cool. So yeah, we're going to put Take That Clankers in there, obviously. It's going to work really, really well with the 2 Phase 2 clone troopers, and you can't do that exactly the same. Not quite as good, because you won't get the free aim with the Phase 1 clone troopers, because again, you have to have the aim token. There have been a lot of questions about this. You don't actually flip your token face over until the end of your activation. So you have a face-up order token, you activate them. Normally you just have to aim and then shoot at the longer range. That's when it works. Then when you're done, you flip it over. But now the Phase 2s can move, get the free aim, and then shoot and have a tremendous range. So this is just going to be really, really good for Phase 2s. This is a great card for Phase 2s, and one of those things that makes Phase 2s better. But again, this one caps out at 2 right now, so I feel like you're getting a really big bang for your buck if you're running 2 Phase 2 clone troopers, but I don't know if you really get, I think you start getting diminishing returns after the second. All right, and then, of course, we've got We're Not Programmed. This one's good, too. It's definitely good. But this one's also activating 4 clone troopers, which is really the great thing about this. You're putting a lot of fire support possibilities out there. So I do like that. And that's We're Not Programmed. Now, for R2-D2, again, his are all right, but we want to keep in mind we may want some things like ambush, push, or assault to put lots of face-up order tokens out there on my clones, so this way we can do fire support. But some of R2s are definitely worth it. I think R2's 1-pip is definitely worth it, because ambush is, again, only giving you 1 unit. So blast off, it gives you so much for R2, and it really helps him become a game winner. For one, if R2 is about to die, this it's a 1 pip, so you may have a good chance of winning. But also for for that last turn, for that turn 5, turn 6, like we need to get into their thing. It's going to give him that speed. It's going to allow him to complete his secret mission. So I think ambush is definitely worth it. I'm sorry, blast off is definitely worth it. For his impromptu immolation, it's okay. I don't really think I need R2 shooting. I think I would rather issue orders to 2 other units to be able to do things like fire support if need be. So I'd rather have push as a regular one in there. Now we have also assault or smokescreen, and I kind of like this one. When R2 issues an order to another friendly trooper unit, it may perform a speed 1 move, and I feel like this one could be, because for one, it is giving you 2. It's giving you 2 different things. You can place the smoke token, which is kind of nice, but you're giving it a move during the activation, and normally like Leia, kind of was the only way to be able to do that. And you can, and if you wanted to do such, you could activate your offensive push as well and have an aim token before everything starts. So I feel like that one could be a real fun one. So we're going to put that one in there in place of assault, even though assault gives you more activations. We're pretty core heavy anyway, so I feel like this is taking your 1 operative, and maybe you give it to Rex, and it's a good option for Rex to be able to also activate his offensive push. And now you've got all your core, in your pile with the 2 bark speeders, but you have a pretty good chance of pulling core if you play that card. And it gives you, of course, the smoke option. But yeah, so those are the command cards. That is the build, and I'd love to hear what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. I will put a link to this list down below. Also, I've got a final day of Life Day giveaway to announce, and it is for a Star Wars Legion course set, and we will ship this anywhere in the world. So hopefully, as long as you're not on the moon or something like that. But yeah, and that's going to be to Brandon. Brandon, go ahead and shoot me an email at mailcrabbok@gmail.com, and I will get your contact information. And congratulations, Brandon. You've won the 12th day of the Life Day giveaways. And yeah, it's been real fun doing the Life Day giveaways. So I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me. And there will be more giveaways starting up in January. So definitely stay tuned for that. Anything that goes unclaimed from the 12 days of Life Day giveaways are going to roll over into Patreon. So patrons, you guys are in for some additional giveaways next month. So that will be very, very fun as well. Be sure to check out Tabletop Admiral, and yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think down in the comments section below. Hope you guys are having wonderful holidays. Hope you guys have a fantastic new year, and I will talk to you guys later. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.